My name is Priyamvada Vimbar. I head Cybersecurity practice at Software and Technologies. I have over 15 to 18 years of experience building a cybersecurity function, implementing it, and looking at it from a product perspective. So in today's panel, we essentially bring forward to this community the challenges that we face when we take something from the domain of cryptography and try to build it into real-world systems. So I have an esteemed panel with me, and some of them come from the cryptography background and also have had industry exposure. Some of us are purely in business, and some of us are completely from the cryptography domain. So I invite Dr. Shashwat Raizada. I invite Krishnan Pawar. I invite Dr. Vimal Roy. I invite Dr. Vishal Saraswat to join me on the panel. Before we begin, may I request for a very short introduction from each of our panelists.
So I'm Vishal Saraswat. I'm a crypto expert at Bosch Global Software Technologies. I drive what we call Bosch Cybersecurity University, which basically takes care of the competency development in cybersecurity at Bosch and research and innovation at Bosch in cybersecurity. Not all research and innovation.
I'm Vimal Roy, professor at Indian State Institute, Kolkata, and also I'm driving this crypto movement in India since its inception in the mid-90s. And I'm the founder, I'm still the General Secretary of the Crypto Research Society of India.
Hi, I'm Krishnan Pawar. I am Senior Director at Secure Things India Private Limited. I drive the product portfolio strategy for cybersecurity products in automotive at Secure Things. Earlier, I have been involved in establishing the cybersecurity business for ITAS in the Bosch company for India region. Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Dr. Shashwat Raizada. I'm right now Director of Cybersecurity at Magnet University. I have 7 years of experience in the cybersecurity domain in the industry, that is largely the automotive industry, and of course the IoT stuff. And before that, I was working with the strategic services, where I was looking at the topic of information assurance, and as part of that, I was building up different crypto products that could be used in strategic networks.
Thanks to all of you for your introductions. Now we begin with the first question on the panel. We understand, at least from the cryptography community, that your work begins after the key has been hit under the carpet somewhere. Right? So you get the right algorithm and the key is hidden, the system is secure. And fundamentally that's the assumption with which we would like to go. But from an implementer's perspective, hiding this key is really one of the most complex things that you end up doing in your implementation. So it could be that the key is hidden in the hardware, or it could be the software. Software is not seen to be very secure, so you have hardware security modules coming in there, and they open up a whole set of challenges. So today on the panel, the idea is to discuss, are there alternatives to this? Yeah, maybe Kash, you could add to whatever I described now as challenges, and Kushman, you also, as what you've seen from your experience.
Okay, I think that's quite an interesting topic, and I read a very interesting quote somewhere. So that says that cryptography is the art of solving problems by transferring it to key management. So as long as the keys are secure, we can say that cryptography is secure. So therefore, there's a lot of expectation that, okay, we have to keep the keys secure, but what is the environment that we are dealing with? how does the industry move ahead? What are the options available? What are the pressures that the industry is having? And how this key management topic can thereafter be taken up very efficiently so that we have very strong algorithms, but we can keep the keys in a very secure fashion. That would be a major problem that we are kind of looking at it. We've got different things that came up like root of trust, HSMs, etc., etc. Those are major issues that we face, and it doesn't end at day one. Right? We have to pearl the keys. If there's a product like a car and it's going to be in the market for decades, how do you support that? How do you keep on doing periodic key exchanges so that it keeps up with the specifications that have been put up? So those are the different kind of challenges that we face, and of course some very interesting solutions also come.
So thanks, Shastak, and thanks, Priya, for the setup. So the moment you start looking at where do we hide the keys, some of the obvious solutions are hardware security modules, and it starts from there. When we start looking at automotive embedded applications, microcontrollers, there is a variety of HSM enabled hardware available, but there is not a very big variety of the HSM firmware available. Now, the problem is if I'm developing a body control module or a gateway module or a power train module, the problem shifts from the application development to integrating the HSM, porting the HSM firmware on the designated hardware, and start looking at all the other integration challenges. Now, this needs time, effort, money, and also peace of mind is gone. And it does not end there. There are a lot of challenges because of the distributed development of automotive software. There are technical centers of tier 1s, there are technical centers of OEMs. There is the OEM itself with the headquarters somewhere, and then there is the headquarters of the tier 1 also, and then some development suppliers. Plus, there are the HSM firmware suppliers. This is too much of orchestration for security. That's just one part of the problem. Second problem, which I was trying to do some to build some understanding around. What else? Why post-quantum? How secure are the classical algorithms, etc.? And I stumbled upon some papers which are talking about use of AI/ML for cryptanalysis, use of AI/ML for side channel, easier side channel paths. And then I tried to dig more information. There was not much. The speed at which AI/ML is catching up, probably post-quantum, is a far later problem to solve. That's where I come from.
Ishan, and I think finally you take.
So that's a good question. Yeah, when we start up a cryptographic class, choose a random key. Choose a random number. Yeah, we never talk about how to choose a random number. That is the job of the implementer. Right? So, and that's where again I think we may talk about HSM. And now you have some shared secret key or a secret key and a public key. And yes, that is true. Where put this secret key? So that question is correct. And yes, I think we cryptographers have spoken about how to split the secret. So have a mechanism of sharing a secret sharing scheme, split the secret, put it in multiple places, and now make sure now you have multiple hardware security modules, and make sure they can work together in a way so that they can do the computations without knowing what the actual key is, and still be able to do the decryption or the encryption which was needed to be done at that moment of the authentication that we are going to be done. So, when I was at crypto, like in the academics and only looking at crypto, I didn't think of actually where to store the key. And since in the last 5 years we have been trying to come up with cloud-based solutions which are using some sort of secret sharing scheme or hardware-based solutions which are some sort of using secret sharing schemes. But these are the solutions that we are looking at using secret sharing schemes.
Just let me add one point. Some time back, I have a good friend, Alfred Manages, who is actually from Goa. I don't know whether he's today visiting Goa North is my alma mater from University of Waterloo, and in one of his talk, I think with some of the Indocrypt talk, he told that I am often confused with these long security proofs. So he made a statement: a security proof is correct till a person finds a mistake. Okay, so again same thing. All this security safety we are talking about, this I also shared with Vyamada in the morning, that these are safe only by belief. So until somebody, some attack and recovers my key, so it's safe up to that point of time. So there is no notion called absolute security, except what Shashir was saying, you really have a true random key with you and use only once. But this is something so hypothetical, it's not appropriate in the real world. And how do we keep key? I always forget my key and I request another password. So the other way I have to be secure, write a piece of paper and put probably in my pocket. And everybody in our everyday domain, we use at least 10, maybe even more, keys and pins and passwords and blah blah blah. And I don't know any mechanism except your power of your brain power. You can store all of them inside forever and you can retrieve it as and when you like it. That's the only model which is secure. Every other model is secure till somebody attacks it.
A short follow-up question to that is, can't there be keyless cryptography?
I think that's a very interesting paradigm. Now, keyless crypto, of course, integrated hash is there, but let me try to build this entire topic. And I'll go back to the paper that was just presented 2 steps back, which was basically on secure boot. So, why do we need secure boot in our devices? See, a car has got about 100 different microcontrollers which control different functions, and we are all aware of the emission gate. You have one version of the software that is gone for the regulations and the other one version which is being used in the car. Or maybe some attackers try to tweak the engine to give it more power, etc. etc. So essentially what we want to keep is make sure that the software in the ECU does not get tampered. What's this problem called? It's an integrity problem, right? So what she brought about, or what can possibly be done is, one is encrypt the firmware, which is not a good idea because it's an integrity problem. So now we need to be sure that that the firmware is not tampered. What do we put? We put in a hash. But the firmware along with the hash can be changed. So she brought in the notion of having a public key burnt over there. So every time you reboot, you say that okay, with this public key of a signer, I can digitally verify whether this firmware has been digitally signed or not. That's a simple use case that is there. So as long as the firmware can meet the signature qualifications, we are fine, we are happy to go. But it's not a very perfect world. We have firmware updates that are there. So what do? We have a new update, so we have a new signature that comes, which has to be signed centrally from wherever the firmware was created and then pushed down. Now, if I look at it, somewhere down the line, we need a public key for it. Right? And that public key, if it gets tampered inside, that's the whole thing that's gone. The entire thing is gone. So, a deeper research, anybody can guess? I found it in hash functions. And how many of you would be here aware of something known as a chameleon hash? Yeah, so I've got few people who know about a chameleon hash. So generally in a hash function, we do not want collisions. But in a chameleon hash, what we do is, if we have a key, a specific key, we can therefore create, we can create collisions. So every time I have a firmware update, I can, using a specific key and certain additional data, come up with a hash which collides with the previous one. So that's a very unique way of implementing secure boot by just having the hash, the first hash of the firmware put in, and for every subsequent update, we are able to make sure that we have the same particular hash, colliding hash that comes in. So these are the kind of paradigms that we are looking for from the, from the crypto community to come up with, and that itself would help us.
Thank you for that was a good follow-up question. Yes, how to hide the secret key, get rid of the key altogether. So if I don't have a key, I don't have to hide it. So problem solved.
I have a serious concern in that. Just a few days back, the former US Secretary of State Henry Kissinger passed away. So he was probably 100 years old. But when I was in Waterloo PhD student, he was very important man anyway. So he was visiting and he delivered a talk. And I just remembered that talk, the last 2 lines. He started like this. That time Soviets existed, so very strong enmity between the Soviet bloc and the NATO and US. And he says that, well, suppose good senses prevail and we decide that we will destroy all the arsenal from Earth, and we do it. Is the world safer tomorrow? Was done, and all of you agree it's not, because what we could not destroy is the knowledge by which these things were built. That's what he told, that you can destroy knowledge. Now, once you go for a keyless environment, somebody is developing that, right? And you are putting complete trust on that person. At this point, at least I have some role to play. And if I don't have any role to play, I have complete trust on this one. And well, you will never know human mind. Somebody is designing, somebody is doing the hardware, somebody is handling the memory, it's all human being. And once they are off from that particular job, can we wash off the knowledge from their memory? We cannot. So they will have all the knowledge about what you have developed. So he may leave Bosch tomorrow, but he will go with all the knowledge of what Bosch has developed as a keyless system. If he compromises, the entire system compromises. So unless we can destroy that knowledge from his head, this is not, I don't know.
I need a helmet.
So now the medical science has to get
I
in.
just remember Henry Kissinger on that point. The human knowledge is the best friend of us, and it could be the best enemy, the worst enemy for us also. Because we cannot destroy human knowledge.
Yeah, coming back to what Dhanulda said, and continuing from where Priya was. So yes, here when we had this symmetric encryption, we try to get rid of the key problem altogether. Okay, we are not going to have keys for this symmetric encryption at all. We'll generate this on the fly, and then we'll use something called asymmetric encryption. So I'll encrypt my message with a randomly generated key. I'll encrypt it with the public key of the recipient and send it. So I don't have to worry about the secret key altogether. I don't have to worry about my AES key. And I don't have any secrets. I only have the public key of the sender. I don't have to worry about the secrecy of this public key. Then, but this public, when we can do this asymmetric encryption, the problem was, how do I authenticate whose public key is this? Okay. And so then we came up with something called public key certificates.
Yeah, so you
Right.
enter the second
And
question.
then
This is precisely the second question of this panel. Go on, Vishal.
So we came to public key certificates, and now we give all the trust to this trusted authority, and believe that this trusted authority won't compromise, which in real life we have seen that so many trusted authorities do get compromised, and all the public key certificates are actually fake. Right? So that one is
not all men.
many of them, right? And on the other hand, even though when we came up with this asymmetric encryption, what I did was I transferred the problem of the secure storage of the secret key to the recipient now. Because the recipient has to decrypt the message, right? So still the problem, we didn't solve the problem. We shifted the problem to somebody else. We gave the responsibility to somebody else. And right now, these are the only two ways. Either have somebody trusted with all the trust, and that guy's brain needs to be washed now, or shift the problem to somebody else, not my problem. But yeah.
The latter part, the latter solution that you mentioned, it has created a snowball of several problems especially for automotive, because an automotive is a creating a vehicle out of earlier 8, 10, 15, now 100, 150 electronic control units, which are small in terms of computing, which are expensive, and more important is they are so resource constrained that you have to fit in everything and all of the security algorithms. So now you have two algorithms to be, at least two, I'm saying, so signature verification needs to be done, and then, so it's trusted. Then you have to decrypt the key, which was encrypted in asymmetric manner, and then you have to do the decryption of the whatever data or update file, whatever is shared. So there are like three algorithms already put to use, and all these keys need to be stored. It brings us back like full circle into the HSM problem. And how many ECUs can have this kind of state-of-the-art security mechanism? We already know. There is hardly 10% of the ECUs that are actually on HSM as we talk today. Now comes the cybersecurity regulations. They want all of this integrity of all of the firmware, CSMS and SUMS, both are like cybersecurity management system and software update management system. It's all mandatory, but a lot of conflicting targets that of course Shastra will talk about. How HSM actually beats the software update management system. Yet another problem to solve as a part of solution of so many problems that we spoke.
I just add one bit to it. So with the asymmetric cryptography, the two keys and the certification, the certificate getting attached to the keys. So you need, whenever you need to start, you need to validate the entire chain of the certificate provider, and then you see your own certificate is it valid. And then there's a device in the field, and you have to manage its certificate life cycle. For some reason, you missed updating the certificate, the device is dead. It's dead. Yeah. So in really implementing cybersecurity for these devices which are distributed and have all levels of computational power. So these are the day-to-day challenges.
Quite true, Emin. Again, a simple question. How many years of AES do we have had? How many years around? 23? 25?
24, 99%.
99. Right? So in 25 years, how many round AES? Right now we've got 9 round AES. How many rounds have we been able to defeat so far?
4 or 5.
4 or 5.
6 almost.
No, 6.
Close to 6. But for 25 years, you're making us, do 9 rounds of AES, which is far more. Getting from 6th round to 7th round and 7th to 8th is that much more. So, if you as cryptographers put in additional layers and layers of security at the implementation forefront, where we have to implement things for really mission critical applications like say airbags and all. So, at the implementation side, now you and me is not from that side, but at the implementation side, we need to focus on realistic and what is the optimal level that is required. We can't be thinking that it's got to we keep on adding layers and layers and layers and actually reduce on the usability. That's the point that I thought I'd make over here.
Okay, so that's where we stand. Anything else to add?
I think we should in fact.
I just have one point to add.
Now this was still only about cryptography and the integration challenges. Now bringing the automotive domain. That is, there is something called as functional safety in automotive. It is the expected behavior of the devices after the code is built should be same as it was predicted, etc., etc. It is to ensure that the hardware or the software should not cause any kind of malfunction, which can lead to a hazard. Yeah, that's functional safety. It has real timing constraints. There are levels of functional safety, and they all interfere with all of the cybersecurity that we are talking about. They are clearly conflicting targets. That's one. Second, there is something called as the AutoSAR consortium, where there is a standardized middleware that has been defined by the AutoSAR, and by and large, everything that's needed at this point in time in automotive can be addressed through the basic software that is compliant to AutoSAR. But the moment we switch to that, the cryptographic libraries, the HSM firmwares, etc., all of this need to comply to the AutoSAR. And the third problem is we are now looking or staring at the software-defined vehicle, which is now moving from monolithic architectures to microservice software-oriented architectures. So there will be a bunch of high-performance compute units in the vehicle, and then there will be smaller electronic control units underneath. So the smaller underneath controllers are going to shrink in their capacity. Obviously, the investment would be lower, and the high-performance compute units are supposed to do most of the services, including cybersecurity. Now let's take all of these three challenges and see whether we can really come up with cost-effective use of implementation of cybersecurity, given that we only have these algorithms available. There is
These
nothing
ways
new
of
anymore.
doing things, and these ways of doing things, and perhaps a third-party trust agency which gives us certificates, which fits more with the web world. Yeah. So that.
I just add one comment. This is one of the first quantum algorithm that intro, and this was proposed by the professors from Brown University. And I know maybe some of you have been to Kolkata when they invited Jeffrey Hofstein, who is the main author of this one. And he told in his talk, that time this PPs was not so popular. I'm talking about 20 years back. And maybe a few more years back, I think it was proposed this entry algorithm. This is, God damn it, nobody will take it because the key management is going to be a real problem for entry. So he didn't see any hope of people accepting entry except for his theoretical this thing, that because of the key management. And now intro is referred everywhere, right? In the QC domain. But that's considered to be the first real post-quantum based on this shortest lattice. So even he was so concerned.
Okay. So our concern is not really out of place.
Your concern is very genuine.
Okay.
I could get you in touch with Jeffrey also. He's still in Brown.
Okay, so this panel need not be limited to us. The mic could also move around here. It would be interesting to also hear your views. And yeah, let's just do one audience round and then go forward. Anybody who wants to say something, has something to say?
Then we'll let's see how they react.
Hello, that's a very nice perspective you have put. I never thought about, we all always think theoretically, when it comes to storing the key, it's a big deal. So it's an interesting perspective. And when you were talking about shifting this, giving the responsibility of this key to the decryption, whoever is going to perform the decryption. So there are also a number of works like you can consider like white box cryptography, where there's a lot of new things coming up in this field, obfuscation, white box cryptography.
Certainly. Do we have secure white box cryptography?
Yeah. That's something. But still,
Yes, so of course one could propose for hiding the key use of obfuscation. Do we have obfuscation? No.
Yeah, like for hiding the key, like you mentioned, you can just hash it.
Yeah, so there are these two techniques, use white box crypto or use obfuscation. Both are holy grails. We are nowhere close to achieving it. Almost every year we have publications on both the topics. Almost immediately, if it's in crypto, at your Asiacrypt it's broken. If it's at Asiacrypt, at Eurocrypt it's broken. If it's at Eurocrypt, it's broken at crypto again. And the cycle keeps going on, right? So with obfuscation and white box crypto, that's the situation, unfortunately. So if that was done, we are done.
It's safe with somebody else.
And also with the efficiency, even if it looks efficient, but it's a lot of work to do. So it could sound impractical a bit.
Yeah.
even if it sounds efficient.
Yeah, those are there. So we do hope that somebody will come up with, even if not efficient, at least a working one, a secure one. And then, yes, something else that we work on and we do in industry sometimes do use even the insecure obfuscation or insecure white box crypto. Because sometimes in industry we are not looking at the security that a cryptographer looks at. When we are looking at AES, we are looking at billion years of security. I don't care about billion years. My product is $1 product. As long as it survives for 1 year, I am good to go. So as long as an attacker needs to spend more than $1 to break my product, I'm safe. Right?
And one thing I wanted to bring from a business perspective, as a business head was nothing to do with this community, just seeing them interact, seeing my colleagues interact. White box cryptography or obfuscation is not really seen as a very honorable thing. It's not really seen to be in the domain of cryptography, and maybe that's stopping many people from working on it further. Maybe that's stopping people from developing it further. There are more attacks on it than there are very good solutions available. So this inside view that I have from a business perspective.
Yeah, so it's a topic very close to my heart. It may not be provable, really secure when you're looking at security the way you look at it. But when you take it on a use case to use case basis, when your adversaries are well defined, then white box cryptography is the only way to secure your stuff is what we look at it. Because use cases in a global and connected world are fundamentally different. Your chips are designed in one country. Integrated in another country. The firmware is put in the third country. It's put onto a car which is shipped in the fourth country. So the supply chain is global. Now, in this global supply chain, if different companies are participating and putting in their intellectual property into this chip that is running, the firmware that's running, they have to be sure that within certain boundary conditions, where different competitors are working together and where a lot of stuff is getting exposed, their part of mindshare is saved. And I think white box crypto primitives have used them in several instances. I have seen that they're kind of secure with the type of adversaries that have been there. So that's a really great thing.
And another thing that I see is AES 512 is theoretically broken, not practically broken. And I hear this distinction between theoretically broken and there are no real life attacks against it. So for a layperson, should he pick this up and implement? So this also generates some sort of a confusion in the minds of people coming from.
So yeah, sometimes like RSA 512 when she says the RSA 512 is broken, so her sometimes is RSA 512 even though it's broken, is it secure enough for my purpose? So that becomes the thing. I think no cryptographer here worth its salt would recommend RSA 512 to be used, right? But is it secure for my purpose? So in that sense, from industry point of view, that's maybe as we are concerned about that. Yes, it's broken. Yes, it can be theoretically broken in let's say a certain amount of time. I don't know the time it takes for a cluster to break RSA 512 right now. Even I think RSA 1024 is gone now. But how much cost would the adversary will have to put into breaking this? Again, coming back to the same business problem. Will that cost to the adversary worth it? Will they want to break it for that price just to break my product?
So Vishal, I want a question over here. Okay. See, I-112 RSA is generally not the state of practice today.
Yeah.
But imagine this: you have a good, beautiful car which has got so many things that were designed some 15 years back, and it's in a perfect state. It's pristine. It costs a huge amount. Okay, and it's doing very fine. Would you ever be bothered that we have an RSA 512 running on a certain chip which is critical? You won't be, right? Or would you be? That's the question.
Shashwat, I know who would be bothered with the algorithm.
being theoretically broken or practically yet to be broken, something like that. This is a very classic stage. For anybody who is in the business of cryptography, for that entity, that's a fantastic piece of information because that's what will sell the fear. And that's what, PTC, for example, right now appears to be. Sorry for that. Now, but does it solve my purpose? I have a very automotive-centric example. Sorry again for automotive examples. We use something called as the controller area network CAN. It's an 8-byte message. Well, of course, 8-byte payload for the headers and footers. But that 8-byte payload is the max information that can be carried between one ECU to other ECU. So AutoSAR consortium came up and said, okay, there is no authentication between the CAN sender and receiver. So there has to be a MAC implementation to be done, message authentication code for secure onboard communication. The size of MAC which is recommended to be good is 5. So if you use 5-byte MAC, you have only 3 bytes of payload. And if you're driving a car that needs certain real-timeness, if you apply a brake, you need it to function in time, right? It's all sent over these CAN messages. 8 bytes, 5 bytes gone, 3 bytes remaining. It will take 2 additional messages to really convey that yes, the driver wants to brake. Now this is a real-time use case. So what do? We start looking at the safety criticalness, and this is passenger safety criticalness of messages. And we then do this trade-off. 2 bytes, something is better than absolutely nothing. So 2 bytes of MAC, 3 bytes of MAC, 4 bytes of MAC, and some like real, when we're looking at updates or any static use cases, 5 bytes of MAC is also fine. So yes, effectiveness of the use case will define how much secure I want it to be, and make it at least slightly difficult for the adversary to completely break the entire chain. It's just a small wall of defense.
And again, any cryptographer worth its salt here, they'll say, what, 5 bytes MAC? Like, you must be using at least 256 bits, and that is 64 bytes worth of MAC. Anything less than that is unacceptable.
Sir, good evening. It's Rajendra MD here. I just wanted to know about the progress, what is happening with homomorphic encryption techniques. This is the one technique which the data analysts they are very much interested in. It makes them to do the analytics on the data without actually decrypting the content of the data. So what are the progress in this area, and how ethical it is to have such a kind of analytics on the data, particularly concerned with the privacy and the secrecy of the data.
No, this is, as of now, nothing to be scared of, because all the algorithms that we know, which has been also implemented in homomorphic encryption domain, they are extremely slow and cannot really handle real problem. They can probably add 2 numbers, but they cannot really do real analytics. So theoretically, it's possible, the mathematics is there, but it's far from any implementation. So it can be safe. Can feel safe at this point of time. But who knows what happens there tomorrow?
And then this is also a debatable question, right? From business's point of view, they would want to analyze the data. They are analyzing your data even otherwise, and you have zero privacy right now. So if you have homomorphic encryption or any other kind of a functional encryption or anything where in principle a company could analyze your data, get some insights on the data without fully decrypting it. That may not be a bad idea, because all companies are already analyzing your data. And then of course we have security agencies, they would want to analyze your data, and they will put in laws so that they can analyze the data. So ethicality will go out of your window anyway.
But as a solution to the privacy issues, this could be one of the good areas of working where these kind of use cases are coming. The electric meter case that you told, consumption patterns that you told, how they could be taken up for meaningful analysis without actually compromising on a person's, on a person's data privacy. However, there are many other methods of anonymizing the stuff which can also be used in addition to the homomorphic encryption as such.
Any other view from the audience?
Regarding the data analytics, what about the verifiable differential privacy thing? Or at least first the differential privacy, which doesn't need keys or which application?
I think what you are talking about is a very theoretical issues which is not even theoretically resolved as of now. So we didn't even go from the application domain to the industry. So once I think we are also doing research in that area, so once we get a bit more settled there, we'll look into, but I think implementation is going to be a huge challenge there also. Just like home encryption. These are all very advanced mathematical concepts. So at this point, I don't think we are very close to any implementation issues. And I think what we are more concerned in this panel is the issues in the implementation and how secure we can be in spite of the best of implementation. Okay, I'll take you offline also.
Okay.
Already 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, good. So thanks for that wonderful discussion. So essentially the questions that we are putting forward with the key management systems, keys per se and key management systems are not really out of place. So, and also when the community of cryptographers is working, could there be also a peek into the implementation difficulties? Or can we look at use cases where the implementations fit? So is there a need to bridge the theory and the implementation aspects? That's a question that needs to be asked. So essentially with this, we would like to invite the community here to also work in collaboration with us, looking at use cases for implementation and taking back problems from the industry back to the research field.
Priya, I had a question for you also.
Yeah.
So since you've been part of this regulation and standardization bodies as such, so I just wanted to understand the perspective from the regulatory body as regards to incorporation of cryptographic standards into the implementation. What is it in interplay there? Or what's the trends in that part?
Okay. I would not first go into regulation, I will go into the standardization. So there are certain generic standards. For example, in the automotive area, we see the ISO 21434. These are standards which are put together by the industry itself. The industry comes together and defines a basic baseline that they can accept as being not really the state of art, but a best baseline that they could go ahead with. So there's state of science, there's state of technology, there's something called a state of art. So the industry essentially works together to say that, yes, I can only carry 8 bytes, so I will accept to carry 3 bytes of security in it. Today I cannot carry 8 bytes. Yeah? So this is the kind of standards that we put forward. But most of the industry standards that are written down, they're all risk-based. Yeah? There is a risk cost-benefit analysis, and based on the risk, you accept certain measures. Yeah? So the overall standards for the industry are always risk-based, and these standards are adopted by the regulations. In this case, the example is R1155. It adopts the ISO 21434. So what does the standard do is that creates some sort of an awareness where you do a self-assessment based on the standard, and you keep moving the needle year on year or decade on decade. You keep watching the field and you're trying to improve your implementations. You're trying to improve your state of art so that you can reach the next level over there. So that's the perspective with which the standards work. But there are definitely technical standards. For example, your PKCS kind of standards. So I do not really, maybe they define certain things in a very defined way, but that could be required at that layer, is my understanding of it.
Sounds good. So I think I also have a question for Professor Vibhu. So after so much of discussions, do you feel that there is a disconnect between the theoretical side and the implementer side? If so, what should be the best way to
Next way forward.
There has been, there is, and there will be. That was in my mind. So I think we have to have any more interactions. It just happens, or say that academia is interested to get a project from me, and that's it. Right? They don't, or also you don't trust academia enough to get them actually involved into a real work. So there is a kind of disconnect in the mindset. So operative part is, it has to be there, the mindset, there is a difference. So we have to work out if this mindset difference could be removed by some means.
I think then panels like this would have a greater role to contribute. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so assuming that the last 45 minutes were well spent, and we go forward in engaging with each other in a constructive way, thanking all my panelists, thanking the audience. Yeah, I rest my case.